Hello and welcome to another installment of the We Are Change talk show. I'm delighted to bring you another hard-hitting episode that will be rebroadcasted on Liberty Movement Radio to an American audience. Today's guest is no stranger to the show. He has been doing powerful work exposing satanic ritual abuse, secret underground tunnel networks, and much more. We welcome back Dale H. Welcome back to the show, Dale. Since we last spoke, the situation has intensified with the New World Order. Medical tyranny is an extreme. How have you been managing there?
Well, yeah, it's been a long time since we spoke. Look, personally, like a lot of other people, I've been given a termination notice or a show cause letter in which I'll be terminated this week. So, yeah, like everyone else, been trying to do crash courses in in the law over, particularly the last couple of months as we saw this coming, and it's quite interesting at the moment too, because I know a lot of people that aren't working, even people that have been mandated but have taken leave and stuff like that. So I'm thinking like a lot of industries really could come crumbling down, as witches look like what they've planned to do, because like me being in education, I've been speaking to a lot of teachers and stuff like that as well, and the schools are really, really stressed at the moment, particularly a lot of I've spoken to people in like special schools and stuff like this, where these are specialized teachers. You can't just replace these sort of people. So yeah, it's crazy. Like we just had a chat offline before. You're obviously in Melbourne, I'm in regional. I've spoken like in my videos in the past too, that Bendigo is quite a test case. If you look at Melbourne as the microcosm of the agenda of Victoria in particular, but then Melbourne, but the Bendigo is a far more, it's like a little subtle, another microcosm where they've set up, the council set up with all the UN agendas many years ago, Smart City, Smart Suburbs program. Like I know the being in education with, we got the Bendigo Education Plan, which is it's another UN agenda. We got the Safe Schools program, all that sort of stuff being pushed through, and we just got chosen to be one of the test cases for the passport trial. And I actually tested this. I went up to, so there's specific places that they put it at, and one of them's the Bendigo Art Gallery. And so I was denied access there. So I've been doing a lot of stuff like that. So I'm going to issue an OAIC complaint, which is a privacy complaint to my employer. So I encourage people to do this, but I've also done it against the art gallery and places that are refusing us. But yeah, it's like, it's definitely, it's amped up. It feels like something big's about, like something has to break this, because there's, if you looked at the rallies all around Australia on the weekend, it was like I went down to Melbourne to go to the one there, and we were watching Rukshan's live, and I got about 15 minutes away, and they basically said there's no one there, and they'll sit and duck. So we turned around and didn't come back. So it was a bit disappointing, but it's almost like the people of Melbourne, they're a bit defeated, aren't they? It's like they've been pushed so hard. Like I don't know what it's got to take. Maybe it's a big financial collapse that. For like, what else is it going to take at this point? How are you seeing it? How's it in Melbourne?
A lot of people are feeling really crushed. Their employment history might be outstanding. They could have a perfect attendance record, but that's all disregarded. It's very disrespectful. And now they're facing financial doom. The turmoil that they're in, it carries back home, and the emotional stress that's being caused. I applaud the fact that you're not just going to take this and be defeated by it all. You're standing up. You're looking at what options are available. A lot of people, you got to really look and assess what you can do, what avenues you can go down, because, it's very harmful to people's mental state as well, not being able to provide for their family. They really feel inadequate, and we see the suicide rates are really skyrocketing because of this. People don't see a way out, and with Christmas approaching, it really weighs heavy on them and the whole family, and the children are affected as well. So it causes a whole range of problems that are emerging from this. And yes, the small towns, they start off in the regional areas and see how people will handle it. Will they resist the tyranny? Will they comply? And then they roll it out to the larger areas, don't they? So it's very strategic how they're doing this. It's incremental. They put their restrictions in, that's all implemented. And then before you know it, all these people that aren't complying, they're locked out. They can't attend venues, restaurants, and people are virtually treated like second-class citizens, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like you touched on the children there. And I'm sure everyone's hearing this, like the psychological torture that they've done to these children. You know, this can be a lifetime of damage and it needs serious repair. And you know, none of this. It's interesting today because they're going to. Apparently, they have to release some of the scientific information from these briefings or these meetings that the government's had. I don't know if you saw that come through today, but like, what was I going to say about yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people now too are just absolutely terrified in Victoria, and you know, people are fleeing at the moment too, and because there's a lot of very frightening legislation. You know, the one that's being pushed through, these sort of counter-terrorism bills. I've spoke before too about like in 2018 when they had the Strong City Summit held in Melbourne, that one of the key points that they spoke about was the rise of populism and right-wing extremism. And if you see these bills that Andrews is trying to push through now, it's basically any political discourse with the government can be seen as a terrorist. And this is like, you can be held without charge or trial. There's even with the ASIO amendment bill, they could get you, Jeff, and two or three people connected to you that haven't even done anything can then be held as political prisoners. And this was all done, you know, back from 9/11 and the Patriot Act, and then the whole list of attacks that they were doing all around the world. And every time they did, they were pumping through more money, more legislation, more funding for counterterrorism, more funding for the police. But now, Avi Yemeni's reported that the counterterrorism police have been operating in Melbourne. I'm not sure if this is the case. This is what he said, but that should tell people very, very clearly what the government thinks of you. They are defining people like you and me, Jeff, and anyone else that goes against their tyranny as domestic terrorists. And we're seeing this all around the world. This happened with January 6th in America, the setup there, where I even had a friend in America that posted that she would have liked to have gone to the rally on January 6th. She just posted this. She's a teacher. And she was called into the office and told to remove her post or she could be fired. And that's just for voicing a political opinion. And in America, that tends to be actually the popular political opinion. So, you know, it is quite scary in Victoria of how far they are going to push this, and why have we got these quarantine camps coming in when, you know, we've hit, I think my town, we're up to 90% double jabbed, which is like the highest in the state. And you know, things still aren't open, and I don't know what people need to say. Clearly, Andrews is not backing down. He's doubling down. I listened to I don't listen to many, but I listened to one of the press conference the other day, and that Foley, the health minister, every question they asked him, it was, I don't know why they have a press briefing, and who these pathetic journalists are. Yeah. Because they're saying, they're going, oh look, there's thousands of people due to be walking out of work as of December 15th. And his only reply was, well, I guess they've got to go get the jab. And it's like the people that are left now, they've got the last lot of people over the line that didn't want it, but are either too scared, don't know the law, don't know their rights, scared of losing their home, which is understandable. They've got those people over the line. And then the only people that are sort of going to be left standing is people like you and me, Jeff, that I won't take it under any circumstance, and the consequences of that is irrelevant to me. Whatever it may be will be. But, you know, so it could possibly be what they've said in my town, 90%. There might be about 10% that are never taking this. So there's a lot more people that don't support the mandates, but we need those people to come along with people like us that are steadfast and they need to be supporting us. Like at my work, I've had people going, oh, good on you, well done for sticking up for yourself. I'm like, well, why have you handed over your private information? Why do I have to take a stand where you're not willing? You know, if we all did this, it'd be over tomorrow.
That's right.
But,
you're absolutely right on point with that. Anybody that speaks out against the government has alternative viewpoints. They're looked at as a right-wing extremist. They've also put in legislation that allows them to alter, delete, and edit people's social media. They can go onto Instagram, Facebook, they can take things out. And, you know, there's always, and that's going to be rife for abuse too, when people have that level of control. They're intoxicated with this power that's coming through. And anybody that attends protests, they've live streamed it, and they've been investigated because of a live stream on their Facebook. They've had visits from police at their door. They've received fines. They turned up at my doorstep, 2 detectives. They had printouts from the We Are Change Melbourne Instagram page. They began to try and interrogate me over a protest that I attended. I stipulated I was there reporting as a member of the media, documenting matters of public interest. That's all denied. Even when you stand up for your rights in this country, they just trample all over that. It's a complete violation of human rights. It's totally disgusting the way people are being treated. Freedom of speech is no longer, there is no freedom. And we should have a right to hold this criminal government accountable for everything that they're doing, because they're operating in a way that's considered high treason, and they deserve to be punished for that. And you mentioned the journalists that are turning up at press conferences. They've all been vetted. They're mainstream media personnel. So nobody has an opportunity to ask any hard-hitting questions because they'll be removed immediately. So they've effectively silenced anybody. The independent media, when they turn up at protests, they're treated like criminals, myself included. They've ripped a press pass from my neck, very rough, because they have a guilty conscience and very suspicious behavior. They don't want to be recorded engaging in their police brutality and other nefarious dealings that they're engaging in. They're very criminal. And that's a sign of guilt too, when they don't want to be filmed or photographed. So yeah, there's many levels of corruption that we're dealing with here, and it's very hard to escape it. Anybody that tries to flee, they lock down the borders, they set up ring of steel in many places. I mean, it's really horrendous. We've seen windows smashed out of cars, people dragged out. They're trying to instill fear in people so they don't question anything, they just comply. And it's virtually fear-based mind control, isn't it? As well as the propaganda.
The whole thing's, yeah, it's a big trauma-based mind control operation on a global scale. But you know, what you said too about them trying to install fear, this is this is a satanic force. It wants to control you through fear. So what do? You do the opposite. You be fearless, and that's what you've been doing, Jeff. You just keep fronting up. It's like, well, I mean, like, it might sound a bit extreme, but if you're not willing to fucking die for your freedom, then you haven't lost that fearlessness. And I'm like I said, I'll die for this if I have to, because I'm not conceding. It's way too late in the game. And like, I watched Candace Owens the other day. Australia is worldwide news. She said, well, we went to Afghanistan to install democracy, and Libya to install democracy from a tyrannical government. She's like, when are we invading Australia to remove their government and install democracy here? And it's like, well, yeah, that's a pretty good point. And like with what Andrews has done recently, New South Wales has said that Parliament's not open to certain people that refuse to give up their private medical information, but they can still vote. In Victoria, you can't vote. This is one of the most radical things out of everything that's been done. This is one of the most radical, tyrannical, and treasonous things that can be. He's basically said that there is no democracy in this country. You cannot take, as ridiculous as our democracy is, but on the basis of it, we elect a representative. And if you're telling us that these people can't vote, he's picked off his political opponents that are possibly going to vote against this new bill, the new state of emergency to come in. And he's picked those people off and said, you can't vote. This is out of control. And the federal government is fucking silent on doing nothing. Which the good thing about this, Jeff, is that what they've done now going forward with these mandates, and every politician that's voted these things in, they are all guilty. The ones that haven't, you know, you have a chance to speak up now, or like, this system is coming down, and you people are going to be held accountable. It is high-level treason, destruction of our democracy. And when this bloody 28 VIP suppression order, when and if that ever comes out, and it will, you know, fuck me. You know, every politician that hasn't spoke up about this, there's obviously been Heffernan. There was, who else spoke out in the Victorian Parliament last year? There's been one other, he read out a petition. But, you know, call your MPs too, tell them that I'm not voting for you in the next election unless you address these suppression orders and demand that they be lifted. If you don't do that, you don't get our vote, because we don't vote for freaking people that protect pedophiles.
Exactly.
And that's fucking, and, you know, like, A1's the only party I've heard that's really addressed this issue. You know, some of the other minor parties are doing okay as far as tackling some of the bullshit around what's going on. But as far as addressing this pedophile protection, I've only seen A1. So if a politician, if they're not going to address that, then fuck them. Their system's a load of bullshit. And you know, this is all John Howard's legacy. We just had Colin Powell just die recently.
Yes.
A man that lied to the UN, lied to Congress, completely about the WMDs.
Yep.
They've been caught out lying. Who's faced justice over this? Millions of dead Iraqis. I put a picture up of Fallujah the other day of what the bombing did there, and the chemicals, what it did to the children that were born in Fallujah after this. This is John Howard's crime. Port Arthur is John Howard's crime. The suppression order is John Howard's crime. He's the one that placed it on. He's put a lock and seal on the Port Arthur documents. John, you know, this, he's still hailed as a hero by some, you know, the people that still believe in the left, right wing sort of bullshit. And the other person that was under John Howard's cabinet was Alexander Downer, in which I'm hoping this Buddy Durham report comes out soon, because we've had 2 indictments of Clinton Foundation lawyers. And interestingly, they only had 1 charge on them. Mm-hmm. So what that means, I've heard people say that if you've got 1 charge, because they should have dozens, if not hundreds of charges on them for to bring these out as an indictment, to have 1 charge on there means they're cooperating with the prosecution. So, you know, we do have to have some, like, I don't have faith in the system, but truth has a way of finding its way out, whether that's even in a corrupt institution. And, you know, like things like this, we only need little gems to come out of this Durham report, because, you know, we've also got the Brian Houston case going, and we've got Maxwell's case coming up in America. You know, like, and as some of this stuff starts to come out, you know, Jeff, that we expect that they're going to double down even harder. And, you know, we could see a communication blackout. We've obviously saw Facebook go down the other week.
Yes.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been a lot of algorithmic changes since then. I've been banned twice since that went down. I've been unable to send a lot of things through Messenger. So that every time they did this after Christchurch as well. So when they take the Facebook down, the algorithms always change, but it could have been, I suggest there was big data dumps being transferred, who knows where to who knows who, but interesting times, Jeff.
It certainly is. That's precisely what's happening, and very interesting information you brought forward, very relevant. A lot of that's breaking news. Colin Powell, an absolute war criminal, everything that he was involved in, and Facebook going down, that's right. It's all very sinister the way that's being played out. And the suppression orders, that's exactly right. We cannot condone anybody's activity that allows this to go on, and the perpetrators aren't being held responsible for that. You've done essential work lifting the veil on the abuse that's being perpetrated against children, the secret societies, the satanic ritual abuse. It's people like you that have stepped forward, and you're doing remarkable work. And this is going to help the future generations coming forward to shine a light on the darkness that's taking place. It truly is evil. And you've been going from strength to strength. You've had guests on your show, and a lot of people stepping forward and giving their testimonies as well. Very powerful work. Enlighten the viewers on what exactly you've uncovered there, because it is very much groundbreaking.
Yeah, well, like I've always sort of said, that I think this is, you know, if we want the truth and we want sovereignty, we need to know what's happening, and we also need to understand this agenda and what's been going on within the last couple of years. It is a satanic force driving it, and like I said, with the suppression orders, this will reveal a lot of this stuff. Obviously, I've spoken to Rachel Vaughan a couple of times. I'm still in the process of doing a video on my hometown, and I mean, I had Jeanette Archer on as well too, who's doing absolutely brilliant stuff. She's been giving some phenomenal speeches around London, going to the locations in London that she was abused as a child, involving very, very high level people, and names that people would know: Greville Jenner, Cyril Smith, what's the other one? Leon Britton, Ted Heath. All these names that are known pedophiles and have been published, even in mainstream papers in the UK. But the one I always like to bring up, because it's so relevant now, is the Raina Michelson story. And because, you know, as far as like cooperating with the Victorian government, the police, that she exposes that the Victorian government, the Victorian Education Department, and the Victorian Police were all involved in a pedophile ring in Melbourne and into the regions, into central Victoria as well, particularly in Rushworth, where there was a satanic cult operating. But we've had a number of interesting cases in my own hometown. There was a girl that got abducted probably about 8-9 years ago and was held captive. And I found this out through, I can't really say, but I know people in the know that know about this story. And they basically found her before she was about to be murdered. She was in the back of the boot, but she was held captive for a few days. But what this person did to her was satanic. These were occult and satanic rituals that were being involved, that this girl was involved in. We also had another man who had his head decapitated at his place of business when I was about 18 years old. He was pretty well known. And I've also, I can't say, but like there's stories around him involving, involving some sort of nefarious sort of stuff. People would hear this in their own towns, but Raina's testimony is so pivotal because she names the Premier of Victoria being involved. She said they have documentation on this former Premier involving children. He was a regular at one of these brothels, and in the particular way that he would abuse the child. Because, and a lot of this is the reason they do this is sometimes when the child eventually goes to report the story, it seems so ridiculous because of the way that the abuse happened that it seems it never happened. And this would, Ted Heath used to do this too when he was abusing children on the Morning Cloud, his yacht. And also Michael Tarraga just died a couple of weeks ago. So rest in peace to him. He was a survivor of Ted Heath and the British care system that was abusing him as a child for many years. But Ted Heath had this metallic claw that he would use, and this seemed, you know, this is part of the reason they do this as well too. Ted Heath's also been involved. They talked about how he would hang children on meat hooks. But in Raina's testimony, she also goes into the Mornington Peninsula pedophile ring involving a childcare centre there, in which the kids were being bussed out, and some of these children were being abused on police-owned property involving Victoria Police. So, and look, this is not, I'm not saying all the Vic police are like this though, but there's two police that operate. There is the normal police operating, and there is a secret police. They operate within the same system. And this is how the satanic force works. It infiltrates genuine organisations or even not so, and it puts its people in and operates as a second system. And Raina found this out even through her child advocacy group to stop child abuse, that she set up this foundation, and she was going around in schools. That's how she uncovered what was happening at Rushworth College. What she found was they infiltrated her. The board infiltrated her. They control the funding. They control who she can't have access to. Only because she was so steadfast and such a smart woman, she was able to uncover what they were doing behind the scenes. But this involved a Channel 10 board member, in which it's been suggested too that Channel 10 was had this archive of child porn on their servers. And we know that Rachel Vaughan's mentioned Channel 9 in Adelaide being involved in filming of child porn as well. So look, it is, I mean, I could talk about this sort of stuff for ages, but it's the whole point of it to me is to expose the satanic force, and particularly satanic ritual abuse. Is, first of all, if someone can do that to a child, you don't think they would push a jab on the population that would harm or kill us? Exactly. Everything comes back to understanding what this evil is, and I don't think the majority of the population doesn't understand how that. It's like, well, 9/11, they'd never do that. Well, hang on, they rape children and murder them. You don't think they'd have an issue with taking out their own citizens? Or what we saw, I said before about Colin Powell with bombing the shit out of children in Fallujah. You have to understand that the mindset, the sickness, this inversion and synthetic force of what it is trying to do to this planet. But the thing is, Jeff, we've got the power to stop it too, and we have we're special beings as humans. We really are. And this is what the satanic reason why it has to infiltrate is because we have to create its reality that it wants, because it doesn't have that creativity. We have that creativity. So literally all we need to do is have the knowledge and then step away from their system and don't cooperate with it, because then we don't build their world.
Very well said. You broke that down. Excellent. And that explains it in great detail. They've covered every base, from the secret societies to law enforcement, government, media. So that way the Web of Filth goes undetected. And when people present themselves, a lot of victims, they aren't being heard. A lot of the stories, they sound too far-fetched. And that's part of their cover as well. That's how they're able to continue with these atrocious crimes. The level of evil is shocking and mind-blowing. A lot of your average citizens in the public, they refuse to believe it. They don't want to open their eyes to that level of darkness. And yeah, it's very shocking what's taking place. A lot of these rituals, we see the children put in extreme amounts of fear. We see the blood drinking rituals, the harvesting, and yeah, what takes place, people wouldn't even dream that this would be taking place. A lot of, even in their small towns as well, community members, people in government. Yeah, it really is shocking. And a lot of people are preoccupied with this new world order and the restrictions. They seem to forget about this, the secret underground tunnel networks that are being used to traffic a lot of children as well. It is happening on an industrial scale. These children are like currency, and they're being shared between a lot of these high profile figures and a lot of the parties that take place and a lot of these mansions as well. That's where it happens, the hunting parties. Yeah, the level of evil, it is very disturbing, and it can really take its toll when you do a lot of this research and a lot of the victim stories. It really weighs heavy on a lot of people, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like for us, Jeff, that has sort of been aware of this stuff for a while. Like, I know you interviewed Fiona Barnett years ago, didn't you? And
yeah,
it seems so out there. But the what you'll find if you start looking at a lot of these survivors is the stories just continue to mirror each other. Yeah. It's and there's obviously different levels, but if you of these cults and how they operate, but when you get into the high levels, like David Scherter spoke about hunting parties. Anneke Lucas from Belgium, she spoke about the same thing. Obviously Fiona Barnett. Jeanette Archer in her speech the other day spoke about these hunting parties. They were given wristbands for the kids that would not to touch. They could rape and abuse them, but they weren't to be killed when they set the children off to be hunted. And they've done movies sort of mirroring this recently, haven't they? And that's what they do. They like to put it into the light. But I mean, like, yeah, how do you get people to understand this sort of stuff? I was going back over Kathy O'Brien's work recently, and I was reading I read her book Transformation of America many years ago, and she's got another one called Access Denied for Reasons of National Security. And the reason was she put her entire documentation of what happened to her as a MK Ultra presidential model, she was called. So she was a high level specifically for that presidential. Like, this is suggested what Marilyn Monroe was as well too. This is why it was implicated that she was having sex with a lot of these politicians, because they have gone through the specific MK Ultra program to be a sex slave, and she was also a communicator of secret information where they could put codes into her brain and she would do it out. But the point I was getting to is she obviously went through the rape and torture, particularly around the George Bush Senior administration, but also her daughter. So they'd brutalize her daughter to further get to her. And I posted a picture on my Telegram the other day of there was a doctor's report done after her daughter Callie, who had a hymen, what do you call it, perforate or whatever. So there's documented evidence of this. And she talks about, she calls it George Bush's world, an introduction to George Bush's world, where she would run these high fevers and would be shaking and in absolute trauma after being brutalized by George Bush Senior. And look, she was in with, she saw on the inside Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Gerald Ford, Pierre Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, who used to abuse children, rape them and throw them out of his helicopter. I mean, it's the most bizarre stuff you'll ever hear. And then, if you hear Fiona Barnett's story, she talks about Bob Hawke being raped by Bob Hawke in Parliament House. Paul Keating, that was a necrophiliac, that there was this child that they buried on the beach that they brought her there to see the child to further. But this is on the extreme level of MK Ultra. But what they've done is they have run this exact same operation on us. And what you do, if you watch a press briefing, we're not coming out of lockdown, blah, 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 there's more cases, you go to an ad, you're in a flight or fight response mode, your mammalian brain is not working, you're not accessing the frontal lobe, you're in fear response, then it goes to the trigger word, get the jab. It'll go to the advertisement, whatever it may be, whatever they want to program into the population. And we keep going, how do these people not see it? How do they not see it? We need to understand these people are under a complete and utter spell. And I said recently, I actually got a voice in my head that told me to get the jab. And I've spoken to a lot of people. Yeah, this was maybe a month and a half ago. But it was very clear. And it convinced me for a few seconds to actually get it. So, away from just even the mind control of the subliminals that have been put into our mind, there's also this technological mind control that we need to be very wary of as well too. And you need to understand sometimes what are your thoughts and what aren't. And I think a lot of people have been victims of this electromagnetic and technological mind control and aren't even aware of it, because I spoke to some friends that week and they went off and got it. And I said, well, why did you get it? And he goes, well, I was watching the news one night and I guess I saw that this is the only way out of it. But like, he wasn't going to take it. And then it was just bang, one thing. And this happened to a lot of people around the same time. So, like, you've got to be able to control your own thoughts, don't you? Or understand what's yours and what's not.
Yes, very important that you mentioned that. I covered that on the last show, the voice of God technology, voice to skull. A lot of people are having their own thoughts being manipulated, and they're having ideas come into their mind that aren't their own. It's very intrusive the way this is happening, and the MK Ultra that's taking place on a lot of the children. You see their brain is fractured, they adopt split personalities, they end up with all these disorders, and it affects them permanently for the rest of their life. And these...
Well, if you think, Jeff, about like if we're looking at what's happening in Victoria with the police now, obviously they're under different instruction to us, but is it not out of the realm of possibility that there is a mind control going on within the Victoria Police. I'm not sure if they're going to seminars, their briefings. There could be technological mind control going on within the cars, within, you know, whatever. You know, this is very likely.
Absolutely. And it appears that they've been psychologically programmed to have no compassion or empathy. You see the violence and the murderous look in their eyes. And yeah, there is just no humanity involved. And obviously that's been a process that they've undergone to remove all these human characteristics and these natural traits. They just don't have that. That's how they're able to inflict so much pain. And that's why the evil is at an all-time record high, like we're seeing. And the higher up you get, it seems like that's where it just gets even worse. And a lot of these predators, it seems like they've been given immunity to commit these atrocious crimes and get away with it. People in government and how they're all linked in, very much guilty by association. And people are starting to forget about Epstein as time goes on. And if you look at like birds of a feather, the company they keep, and the royal family linked in with Jimmy Savile, and it just goes to show, you know, it's all intertwined like that. And Brian Houston, you mentioned that. I went into Hillsong Church, and a lot of the victims are waiving anonymity. They're stepping forward, they're telling their story, and yeah, the way they cover for each other. And we've seen that Brian Houston, he wasn't welcome at a gathering, Trump. That's right. They know, they've done background research on a lot of these people, haven't they? And they know the level of filth that we're dealing with here. Scott Morrison, and I've had people on the show, they've even admitted that there's videotapes circulating of Andrews and others involved in these heinous crimes where children really being harmed and killed. And some of the people that I've had on the show, a lot of the victim impact statements, yeah, it's a lot to take on board, but it's very much happening. What goes on behind closed doors at a lot of these Freemasonic lodges, it's enough to make their hair stand up on the back of people's spine and on their neck. It really is frightening. A lot of the high level 33-degree Masons and a lot of the rituals that take place, even when you look at the oaths, it's all very murderous the way it's written down, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's, I mean, like that Elton Childs video was right that came last year, which is which I've actually got a book by Tex Mars called Codex Magica. It goes through that.
Yeah.
As well, that was quite an old book. But what you said about the police too, about this mind control, like even if you think of the police, you wear a uniform. What's a uniform? It's one form. That's they want a hive mind, a collective hive mind mentality. As well as police, you've got the pyramid structure, the chain of command. And this is what happened with Raina Michelson, that she was reporting what was going on and corruption within the police. It gets to the certain level and it's chopped down. And then they ask for the documentation, it's missing or whatever. And this even happened within the education department. But, you know, like, I mean, you brought up Brian Houston too. And like, there's an excellent 4 hours of conversation that Fiona Barnett did with that lady, Deb, who's, you know, has been fighting, what was it, Christian Life Centre back then, but became Hillsong for decades. And, you know, if people haven't heard that, that is one of the most incredible stories to hear, and the harassment. This was a person that knew nothing about satanic ritual abuse and had to, she learned about it after her children were being ritually abused and saw the murder of other children in Hillsong Church. Yeah. In Hillsong.
It's absolutely frightening, isn't it?
And you know, if we look, we got you've got what's his name, the New South Wales Police Commissioner. I forgot his name now. What's his name?
There's one Cornelius. There's a few of them getting around.
The New South Wales Commissioner. He's Hillsong attached as well, right. And he's standing down. But look, there was another great interview that gave people that Lawrence one that Fiona Barnett did, and it spoke about Frank Houston. Now, Frank Houston, he got all his benefits and shit paid out, even after he was stood down as being a freaking, you know, horrendous pedophile. You know, and what Deb speaks about too, which is quite obvious, is Hillsong was a CIA operation.
Mm-hmm.
He was brought over, and this is what they do. They get people that were compromised. He was in New Zealand. He was already a known pedophile in New Zealand. He was brought over to Australia by certain people. This Lawrence suggests Macquarie Investment, Malcolm Turnbull were actually the people that brought him into Australia. But Turnbull, we know, is connected with CIA because Turnbull went over and met with Playboy and bought the rights back for Playboy into Australia. And we know Playboy, again, was another CIA operation. It was a honeypot operation, just like Jeffrey Epstein. And that's why they had all these Playboy parties with all the fucking celebrities that come in, because they were trying to entrap a lot of these people that maybe weren't that sinister, but were into drugs or whatever. You get given a girl, you get told the next day she was 14 and not 17. But anyway, so don't look at Hillsong as a church. It is a CIA cover operating as a church. And Frank Houston obviously signed a deal to bring this over. But, truth has a way of getting out. And eventually Frank Houston got done. And Brian Houston already admitted publicly that he fucking, that he knew about his father.
Yeah.
He's already said this. And now he's trying to deny that very thing in court now. And, this could just open up a huge can of worms with Brian Houston, because, we obviously know what happened with Trump, but I saw another one back in the 90s. There was another Christian church, not Hillsong, but they all are closely attached. And one of the abuse was happening by a member, which was actually this boy's stepfather, who was another policeman as well. And he was getting raped by him. They went to the pastors. Nothing was done about this. They eventually pulled away from the church and went to Brian Houston. She's got the record, the transcripts of what Brian Houston sent back to her. And it's basically, we don't know you. We're not fucking helping you. You're crazy, right? This is Brian Houston, a man of God.
That's
and
right.
It brings up another point that people need to be very careful about, there's Christianity and there's churchianity, right? If you're a Christian, which, good luck to you. If you want to be a Christian, the word is in the book. And it's up to your interpretation. You don't need a man standing up there that's the voice of God that's interpreting for you. And especially like Hillsong, it's just this mega conglomerate of money. And I would suggest it is a money laundering operation. That's what Hillsong is. And then we've obviously got Gloria Jeans, which was attached to Hillsong Church. I think they were funding Hillsong Church and other political donations as well. Through Gloria Jeans, and a lot of these companies they're all money laundering operations, and we've seen it now with Peter Nygaard, who's been arrested and been extradited to New York, which no one's talking about that, which is quite interesting because they all seem to be happening in the same precinct, because they dropped the cases. The Met Police in England have dropped the case again, or the investigation against Prince Andrew, but I believe he's still under the Maxwell case too. He's still listed. Well, apparently they had to hand over the co-conspirators. These haven't been named publicly, but I would suggest Prince Andrew is one of these from the build-up we've seen. But it's all in this New York precinct. Jean-Luc Brunel is going to have to face charges in New York too. It's not been spoken of. So these are Jean-Luc Brunel, fashion mogul. Peter Nygaard, fashion mogul. Les Wexner, who sold Epstein's property for $1, fashion mogul. So we'll have a look at the... it appears that these fashion industries are looking for models. These are operations to get these people in. This is why they target the Eastern Europeans, because we know that it was, apparently there was triplets. They had Epstein had sex with Romanian triplets or Eastern European triplets on Epstein Island. And, particularly around that time in the 90s, where Eastern Europe was pretty destitute place. It was, it was a war zone, a lot of it. And they picked these war zones as well, it's fucking hell. Like there's so many areas that this whole thing could just fall apart, and it just needs one little grain in the system to fall. And that could be Maxwell, it could be whatever. But when it starts to fall, geez, are people still going to be obeying these current dictates by our government when we start finding out these people are pedophiles? It's got to change everything, and I don't think they can hold this information back forever.
that's a brilliant evaluation of what's taking place. And the blackmail operations where they lure people into these parties and then they're caught on videotape with an underage minor, and then they use that as leverage over them. Some people, they idolize a lot of these celebrities, and then some of the character traits that they're displaying, they think, well, that's not who I looked up to. This is very bizarre behavior. It's because they've been controlled. They've got the dirt on them. So then they're virtually like puppets being manipulated, because if they don't toe that line, they'll be tarnished in the media. They'll face prosecution because they have that dirt on them. So that's how come it definitely ends up really corrupt like that. Anybody that reaches a level of success, they get lured into that position. Luciferian honey traps as well, that it's taking place. And that's how come they've managed to have this so well organized. They've covered every angle. And a lot of people are afraid to speak out about this for fear of the repercussions that'll come from that. And if you look at the Epstein flight logs as well, you look at who was traveling back and forward from the island and what's taking place there. There was a good person, Rusty Shackelford. He was flying a drone over, and he was taking a lot of high definition videotape of the FBI coming through, going through the documents, and giving a good layout of the island itself, and even some of the gargoyles, and it's very dark, some of the monuments there, and the color-coded situation they have with the blue and white. It's all very much intertwined, and that goes back to, if you look at like Ellen DeGeneres, the set, there's a lot of similarities as well that's taking place. And yeah, a lot coming forward. And the perversion and the darkness, it even goes to the school system as well. And a lot of these predators that are trying to lower the age of consent, we see the Safe Schools program where they're teaching the children a lot of this filth at an early age, what they shouldn't be learning about that. And it really takes away their innocence. They're corrupting the minds of the young. And this is taking place in the education system as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, that Safe Schools got pushed through, and they've done a number to Melbourne in particular is it has been very left leaning. It's been known as the cafe culture, and you know, you go down Fitzroy, Brunswick, all these sort of places, right? And they've done it indoctrinated through the education system, particularly through tertiary education in the universities. And I remember when I was at university, we had like these mandated courses around this sort of stuff, and you know, we had to do like sustainability and development. We had to do like this, and this was for education. We had to do this course. It was basically around this Safe Schools sort of bullshit too. And around the time when I went into teaching, they offered packages for all the teachers over 55 to leave, because they were indoctrinating us new teachers with this new style of teaching that they wanted, and they wanted us to be on board with this sort of stuff that was going on. And a lot of people can't get their head around that transgender and the Safe Schools. They don't. It really is sinister. And the thing is, it's about transhumanism, yes, which completely relates to the jab, right? The transgender agenda and the current agenda with the jab is the exact same agenda. And this, you can see this through Aldous Huxley, because people think they just want to kill everyone. They don't. This satanic force, part of it at its core is a synthetic force. It is the AI. And we're seeing this now. I probably don't want to go too far, and I don't want to get the video taken down, but we've seen from some of the doctors and stuff that have gone through these vials, there is tech in this stuff. And they don't want a male and a female. And the satanic force in itself is not masculine or feminine. It's synthetic, right? It can have a masculine and feminine synthetic component, but it wants humans androgynous as well. It wants to make us into it. That, I mean, I don't go that far with a lot of people because it's so fucking crazy, but you can see where it's leading. And Aldous Huxley, Brave New World, spoke about, you know, the incubators, right, where you go get your child, and the thing we're seeing now with the problems with a lot of women are having with their reproductive organs after this thing, as well as the clear direct attack on sperm counts over decades, and going back to when George Bush Sr. brought in brought in all these GMO crops. And this is what they did in America. That America had so many different crops and that, and the government basically subsidized for everyone to grow corn. And this America, like I've been to Iowa before, it is just non-stop cornfields. And the reason was because they want this GMO corn. This gets put into all the aspartame and other artificial sweeteners. And the GMO corn, they fed rats GMO corn for 3 generations. They're infertile, right? So we're not even three generations in. They really brought this in the 90s. And you know, that's why if you speak to our grandparents and shit, no one got cancer back then.
That's right.
And there was no such thing as organic food. It was called food. You didn't have to go get organic food. So there has been a deliberate attack on reproduction.
Yes, they're trying to genetically modify us. It all goes back to the depopulation, Agenda 21, trying to lower the rates of newborns. It's all very dark. That's what they're pushing, and that's how it all turns into that. And we see a lot of women having miscarriages as well, and a lot of couples, they're trying for many years before they can actually have a child, and it shouldn't. It's
just everywhere now. Like I can't. Like I mean, I know so many people that just like they're trying to get pregnant and they just can't. And this has been happening for years now too. And this is like another. How many girls do you know have endometriosis? It's like it's so common.
It's very sad. It's tragic what's taking place, and they're playing mad scientist with people's lives, and this is happening worldwide. It's heartbreaking to see the tyranny. It's unescapable, it seems. And Andrew's even stated if people don't comply with this, they'll be pushed out of venues and punished well beyond 2022. So I mean, it's becoming more and more unavoidable. And a lot of people, all they had to do was hold their employment over them, and then they'll go through with it. But it's not worth jeopardizing your health over, harming your unborn children. Your health should be top priority when it comes down to it. Even if you have to go to the levels of going off grid, becoming self-sufficient to try and escape this slave society and protect one's own health. That's what it comes down to. It might be a drastic scenario, but it's something that one definitely must factor in during this time, mustn't they?
Yeah, I mean, look, everyone's going to do what they need to do, and there is no right or wrong to people that are leaving. I fully understand that, getting out of Victoria, whatever's best for you and your family. And I think people are really scared now that they're going after the kids, but people want to stay here and fight too. And a lot of us are meant to be here to fight. And at the end of the day, you really can't escape it anywhere. There's no, you know, they're pushing it harder in Victoria, but it's a global agenda. But you know, like you said, it seems like all is lost, and it's sort of meant to, because I do see this as a global initiation. I don't see any other way but us uncovering all this stuff and it being retracted. And that's why I have faith in knowing that I've made the right decision. I mean, I would never take it anyway, but I'm not worried. Like, obviously I'm going to have some financial problems now, but it doesn't matter. Whatever. If I lose my house, whatever. It's like, it's that all or nothing approach. And, you know, we need more people, unfortunately, to feel the pain of this, because, you know, look, they haven't seen it to this point. I don't know what else it takes. Unfortunately, people are going to have to suffer, and they're going to have to suffer harder until we reach this mass level of people standing up and people within positions of authority taking a stand. Victorian police, they need to stand up very fucking soon. We are in an absolute state of distress here. The government is completely out of control. It is criminal. And the fact that you're being their racketeers and their mercenaries, and I mean, we have foreign troops on Australian soil in Melbourne. When this is exposed, you want to be on the right side of history, particularly the doctors, the nurses, and the police. You're going to be held accountable. The tyranny only happens because you are helping implement. This government has no power. It's its henchmen like you that are keeping the power going. So, you know, like the Victorian police, they got very limited time to stand up. And I have heard some rumblings that, you know, that this could be happening. There could be a walk-off plan. Who knows? But they're running out of time because, you know, a lot of people aren't going to forgive what you've been doing after the scale of this, of what's been happening comes out. So look, everyone individually, just do whatever you can do. Whatever the agenda is, do the opposite. It's very simple. If there's anything that impedes on your sovereignty, you don't have to do it. I don't care if it's written in a fucking law. I don't even care if it's common law. It doesn't matter. There's right and there's wrong. That's it. That's the only law.
Exactly,
and,
right.
And then, you know, if you follow the right thing, you can go to bed at night and sleep well. And when you die, you'll die happy knowing you've done the right thing too. But people are you don't want to have a guilty conscience, because this is a huge opportunity. We may never be presented with this ever again. I mean, we won't. Our generation won't. But, you know, this is a huge ending of the cycle. And I think we're going to judge ourselves on how we behave throughout this period. And like, you know, yourself, Jeff, you know, you've done everything possible within your means to get the information out and stand up for yourself. And we literally just need, if enough people do that, it's over. It's so simple.
Yeah, that's right. And we see people overseas, they're watching on, they're totally horrified by what's taking place. Foreign troops on our soil, these predators, they've got the logo on, they're just hunting people down, firing on innocent men, women and children. Peaceful protesters, we've seen what happened at the shrine. That was an international war crime. You know, that should be respect for the fallen soldiers. And then they said the only people that can turn up at these memorial gatherings are those that have complied with tyranny, completely disrespectful, people that have laid down
they try to turn that to make it like the people there were disrespectful. That's satanic inversion right there.
Absolutely.
You're at a place of peace and remembrance of standing for our rights. The people go there for protection. Police open fire, and the media twisted on the people. That's satanic inversion right there.
Yeah, they certainly do. And what we need is this cops for COVID truth. We need more of them breaking ranks, handing in their firearms and badge and saying no. Reports are a lot of them are drinking themselves into a stupor at night just to go to sleep because they can't deal with it. And, you know, what's taking place on their conscience, it's weighing heavy. And I've seen the look in their eyes. I've discussed it with them. When I've been arrested, I've been handcuffed on the ground. I said, certainly this isn't why you joined the academy. Do you feel good about this? And they've admitted they don't feel good about doing it. They've also said, well, I don't set the laws in this matter. So it's easy to pass the blame onto somebody else, isn't it? I was just following orders and just to put food on my table and a roof over my head. And they said that in Nuremberg, didn't they, during the trials? Oh, it wasn't my decision. I was just given orders and I was just following that. But that's no excuse for the harm that's being committed on the public. There's women crying, children screaming, and a lot of it is an initiation ritual. There's social distancing, standing 6 feet apart, the masks, the whole deal. And there was a UN spokesperson that said no one will enter the New World Order unless they partake in this initiation, which is very satanic, the agenda that's being pushed in. And then he also mentioned previously during this broadcast, the quarantine camps, a lot of the mining camps, they're turning that into like a FEMA center. They said it would be a good alternative to hotel quarantine. At least they'll have their own balconies, trying to make it seem like a good idea for people, when essentially it's a prison for people that don't comply with this agenda. They'll be transported off and locked away until they do comply. A re-education package that includes torture. This is what we've been approaching for many years. I discussed it here years ago on the show, and people were in a sense of a false sense of security just watching their programs. They think, no,
it's amazing that it's here, isn't it, Jeff? Because like for me, it was like a hobby too. I would try and tell everyone about it when I could, but no one wanted to listen because you could go out and, we were having decent lives back then, but you could see this slowly. I was talking to my brother the other day when they brought in no jab, no play, no jab, no pay in Victoria. And he left Victoria. And he said the writing was on the wall for him years ago. I said, where do you think this was going? And I said back then, if they're people, even that are pro-vax, if they don't stand up now for what's happening with this no jab, no pay, no jab, no play, which was disgusting, we just allowed that to happen. This was always going to happen. But, you know, like Australia is, the eyes of the world are on us now. Did you hear Jen Psaki? Someone just told me this, I haven't heard it, but the press secretary in America, she said people that have received the mark, talking about the
Yes.
I mean, like, how blatant do you get? They've actually said you're marked, the mark of the beast.
That's
like,
correct.
Come on, what the fuck is going on? They're not even subtle about it.
That's right.
Like, how stupid, and like, I can't believe some of these Christians. Like, how are you a Christian? Did you read the Bible? Like, what the fuck? Like, if you believe in Revelations, it's all here. So why would you go take the mark? They've just called it the mark. It's got the pattern 060606 crypto thing.
Absolutely. And what's very important to acknowledge as well is revelation of the method. They have to give you certain information to whereas you can make an informed decision that it is very much satanic. It is the mark of the beast. So therefore, if you're that naive, you go along with it. It basically removes them of any responsibility. So if people get struck down, they look at it, well, it deserves to happen because they gave enough information brought forward. You look at the patents 06, 06, 06, you know, 666, you know, there's so much information writing on the wall. We've heard TED Talks. They can do it in a smart way, depopulating the planet. We've seen it time and time again, even press conferences. They said we have to take this new world order very seriously. And we see a lot of it, the Freemasonic hand symbols, the gesturing being made, throwing up the 666, throwing up the pyramid. There's enough information. It's a secret communication that's being displayed. And people should be able to ascertain just how evil it is by doing some research. But there's no critical thinking being used. As you said, with the genetically modified foods, aspartame, the fluoride, that dumbs people down to a certain level where they've got tunnel vision and they don't really look outside the square and they don't realize just how much danger they're in until it's too late. It's not until someone close to them is injured or worse that they start to really think, oh, hang on a minute. But by then it's too late. It's not until the person is impacted that they will take action.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to.
100% right. That's exactly, people need to be directly impacted. And that's why I keep saying, I think the financial thing, and if the economy just went overnight, that impacts everyone, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And if you look at a lot of the Facebook posts, a lot of people are very miserable at the moment, especially here in Melbourne. This is the home of the New World Order. And I get messages and a lot of calls from people overseas in the United States, and they said we must be at least 2 years ahead of them with just how much we're being punished and being locked out. I mean, and you can see it's not geared towards the best interest of people's health when they allow the liquor stores to keep operating and fast food outlets, but then they shut down the gyms. They refuse to let people exercise, even minimizing people's time to exercise. I mean, you know, they can't do that. That's extreme. You know, that's not a free country whatsoever. And people are afraid to go out at night, the curfews. I mean, people are paying tax and they're using that tax money against us. And it's horrible. The playgrounds, I mean, that's all funded by the people. If they're really worried about these microscopic germs, it should be up to the people to take whatever procedures that they find necessary, but the government should not be forcing or mandating anything on the population. That's where it becomes tyrannical. And when people are being punished, the punishment, it's not fitting to what's taking place, especially when you have 99.8% of people surviving, but then you see we're being shot at, we're being slammed on the ground, we're being threatened and thrown in prison. You know, it's not logical in any sense, is it?
Yeah, and look, that's why they've made it. That's why it's so absurd too. They had to make it so absurd because you are giving your consent. We've showed you how ridiculous it is, and you've still consented. You've still, and that's what Satan or the devil or Lucifer, that's what it is. It is the deceiver. It gives you the option. It never makes the choice. It's like the movie The Devil's Advocate, right? You get put in there. Here's your option. You choose. We have free will. We always have free will. The consequences you can't control, but we always have free will over our own decision. That includes every cop, everyone. And that's why they made this so fucking blatant, ridiculous, bringing in laws you can't dance.
Yeah.
What? They're telling you how stupid this is. I saw one about you have to put your mask on when you're in New South Wales airspace, but then you can take it off when, I don't even know if that was real, but it probably is, because they're showing you the absurdity. So then you have a free will choice. We've showed you how ridiculous this is, and you're too stupid to understand. And if you consent, you have given us your sovereignty, because you're too stupid and too ignorant and you can't see the signs, and therefore you have consented by your own ignorance or even by choice. And this, I'll say this to people that are on the cusp to get this thing now. The people that are completely mind controlled, I get it, I understand it. They don't know any better, right? People that have some understanding of what's going on and you then still take it, that's a whole different level of consent. You are literally selling over a part of yourself. You're selling your sovereignty. And I don't know how you get that back after that. That is a big, big thing on a spiritual and soul level, that you have marked yourself with consenting to tyranny and giving up your sovereignty, which is the most important thing we have.
Most certainly, well said. And some of the questions that are being raised at these press conferences, it really is infuriating. If you're having a picnic, are you able to take your mask off to have a drink or food? And Andrews replies, "Oh, I don't know about the consumption of food and beverages. I'll have to check on that one." Who
are these journalists, mate? Imagine if they allowed us 5 minutes in that freaking press room to ask some decent questions that the rest of the freaking state wants to actually have answered. We'd tear this bloke apart.
Exactly.
I mentioned doctors and police before. I'm sorry, the media's the worst. They are the most responsible, because the reason these people are walking around that are so freaking mind controlled, it is you. You are the ones responsible for implementing the people's perception of reality, based on this bullshit. And they freaking know better. The media knows better, especially the ones on the ground. They see it, and they see the editing bullshit that happens. There needs to be serious justice for these people in the media. And fuck, I'd say it again too. Step forward now, because your day's coming. People are working this shit out anyway. It's like, they are the worst. They are the worst. They hold the system together.
The media are complicit in this crime, and that's right. If we had the opportunity to raise some of these questions at press conferences, this whole satanic agenda would be destroyed within minutes. Well, this has been a very powerful broadcast. If I'm out your way out at Bendigo, we'll have to catch up for a beer sometime and catch
I'll be
up.
down in Melbourne too.
Good on you,
Awesome.
brother. Well, it's wonderful to have you back on the show. I'll put all the information so people can reach you. Any closing statements that you'd like to leave for the viewers?
I just, like what I said before, is like, it is a pretty scary time. We're seeing the destruction of the old world, and we have an opportunity to build a new world. But we've got to stand in our own power. And do that by being fearless. Don't, as much as you can, don't think of the consequences of doing the right thing. If doing the right thing is going to get you in trouble, then so be it.
Yep.
We all know right from wrong. So I'll leave on that. Be fearless and don't worry the consequences.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Wonderfully said. Well, that does it for another episode of the We Are Change talk show. Please consider making a donation. It's with your generosity that this show is able to continue. And I'll catch you on the next episode of the We Are Change talk show, where we expose corruption, one episode at a time.